Hello, everybody. Welcome to our 2021 Community Builders Grant info session. I have here tonight Dominique Cheston. She is our grant manager. My name is Erica Duffy, and I am the founder and owner of Camera Ambassador, as well as the founder of this grant. It is promptly 6 p.m. We're hoping that all of you were able to join for our 10-minute countdown and have a drink, if you'd like one, and a pen and a notepad so you can take down notes. We have a lot of information that will be coming to you tonight. And the purpose of this session is really just to give you guys a little bit more insight into what the grant is. We do have all this information provided on our website and on the Film Freeway, but sometimes hearing it from the creators and the minds of those who put all of this together makes it all click, and we want you to be set up for success so that you can have the most seamless and easy time applying for this grant. So we're going to get started here in just a second. I'm going to check to see how we're looking and see how many people we've got on. I'm assuming, because no one's commenting, that they can't hear us, that everyone can hear us. Dom, is your mic on? Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. I can. Awesome. Yeah, I think that when there's no comments and nothing going on the feed of the event, at least this is my experience with past virtual events like this, if no one's commenting, it means good news. No news is good news. When people can't hear you is when there's a million things coming through and it's super stressful at the beginning of the event. So I think we're going to get started just so we can be straight on time tonight. Thank you so much, Gustavo. I just saw your comment letting us know that you can hear us. Thank you for giving us that feedback. So we're going to get started just so we can be right on time tonight, and we have just so much information to share with you, and we want to be able to get to all of it. So let's go. So we're going to start off. Again, my name is Erica Duffy. I am the founder of Camera Ambassador. I moved to Chicago, I guess it's coming up on 8 years now, which seems so crazy because I never even thought I would end up in Chicago. But here I am, and that's where Camera Ambassador was founded and grown. We are one of the most reliable and artistic-friendly camera, grip, and electric rental houses in the company. So not only do we have all of the cameras and lenses, all these vintage lenses, matte boxes, accessories, all that stuff, we also have all of your grip and electric needs, including grip trucks. I also am a producer. I do all sorts of different types of productions. I don't do as many as I used to because Camera Ambassadors keeps me quite busy. But I have done production from independent music videos, commercials. I've done a feature which actually is about to come out on Apple, which I'm very excited about. The pre-sale's going on now. You can find it, a little shameless promotion right now. It's called Exodus, and it's available on pre-sale on Apple iTunes right now. And then my most recent endeavor is working as the executive director of the Midwest Film Festival. This has been such a passion project for me. It's been so fun to be able to sort of work in a different realm within the industry, but still so much so that I'm supporting the passion, which is enabling artists and enabling filmmakers, creating relationships between filmmakers. So I'm quite busy, and this grant is something that has been a brainchild of mine. I'll talk about that a little bit more once we get to the grant, but I also want to give Dominique a chance to introduce herself. So take it away, Dom.
Yeah, my name is Dominique Cheston. Before working for Camera Ambassador, I primarily worked in arts administration. So I've worked with organizations such as the Danish Arts Council, the Los Angeles Dance Project, the Chicago Park District, Red Moon Theater, Adventure Stage, and Young Chicago Authors. And a couple years ago, I started working on film sets because I did study film in college. And I just kind of wanted to come back to that, which is how I ended up working with Camera Ambassador. So not only do I serve as the grant manager, I also serve as the head of marketing for Camera Ambassador. And while on set, I am a production assistant, an assistant director, and a production coordinator. And yeah, I really enjoy working for Camera Ambassador. I really love working for this grant. I especially am passionate about projects and initiatives that help to support artists in our community.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Dominique. It's such a pleasure having you here, and it's such a pleasure working with you on this grant. I feel like sometimes my mind is just constantly all over the place, and I have 5,000 things going on and an inbox full of lots of things to get back to, and Dominique is really just the glue that keeps this grant together, and is just such a phenomenal force of putting together all of the judges, all of the sponsorships, organizing the assets in the Film Freeway, and that liaison between you all as the filmmakers and the grant. So really so much acknowledgement and credit goes to her, and it's just such an honor to work alongside her. So,
thank you so much.
Some of you, oh, of course, Tom. Some of you may be familiar with our grant. It is called the Community Builders Grant. It is a short film fund, and this is our third year that we're doing it. The first year it was just so unknown what it was going to be like, because I've never run a grant before or worked for another grant. So the first year was a big experiment, and we were really excited about last year, so that way we could have 2 years of data and really looking at like how it worked, what worked well, what didn't. And then, as everybody knows, last year was just completely unpredictable. So this year we're excited to kind of get back to what the original structure of the grant was intended. It is short films, that's all. We only accept scripts that are 15 minutes or less. And the mission of the grant is to arm creators with the necessary tools they need to do to create their best work to create. And while Camera Ambassador does a lot of different sponsorships, and we are very passionate and driven to ensure that we are fulfilling this mission, not just with this grant, but at Camera Ambassador all the time, this grant was a way to ensure that filmmakers had a channel to be able to have deadlines and timelines, and to there's things that are built into this grant that push a filmmaker to refine their craft, or to become better at putting together a pitch deck, or putting together a in-person pitch if they make it to that phase of the grant. So we wanted it to not only be a place where a filmmaker could have that opportunity to receive the prizes that are part of this grant, but also help to allow them to grow and create a space in which they can do that. The part of the grant that Camera Ambassador funds is a $3,000 cash production fund and a $5,000 gear credit. We're going to talk a little bit more about prizes. Dom is going to get into that, because we also have enrolled many other community organizations to help make the experience for the filmmaker who wins this something that, from the very start of production all the way through finish, and through the festival circuit, however they decide to do distribution, that they're armed with those tools to be able to best create. So I'm going to pass it off to Dom, and she's going to get into those prizes. This is a really exciting part of our presentation, and we decided to jump right into this first to get really juiced up about all the opportunities that can come from this. I think you might be muted, Dom.
Thank you. Yes, so as Erica mentioned, the prizes that Camera Ambassador provides are the $3,000 cash prize, the $5,000 gear credit. We also provide free entry to 6 of Camera Ambassador's boot camps. Right now we do virtual boot camps every month, and I, as a filmmaker, find them extraordinarily helpful. The Mill Chicago has been very generous in offering free color grading by one of their expert colorists. I really love their color work as a production company, and I think that any production that has a privilege of experiencing that, of working with them, would have a great time. Noise Floor Sound Solutions has provided 40% off post services, 60% off location audio, and a mentor session about your audio needs. Emma Thatcher Photography has provided 1 day of BTS photography. I know that BTS photography is something that a lot of filmmakers may not have in their budget, and so Emma Thatcher has been very generous in offering 1 full day as a BTS photographer. The Chicago Film Office has offered a 1 to 2 hour consultation. They will handle any of your needs as far as film permits go. So if you have any scenes that shoot outdoors, more than likely you will need a film permit in the city, and you'll be able to easily access them as the winner for their consultation. The Independent Film Alliance has provided 1 year membership. They have a ton of networking opportunities, as well as member-only events such as exclusive screenings and talks. I really love their events. Chicago Compliance Specialists, which is an organization that specializes in COVID safety services for film productions, has offered 50% off 1 day for electrostatic spraying services before and after your shoot. and a 1-day rental for their PPE kit. And we're also, something I should mention while we're talking about Chicago compliance specialists, is that we're having a COVID set safety boot camp Saturday, March 13th. So if you want to sign up for that, just search COVID set safety boot camp with Camera Ambassador. The Midwest Film Festival will give you a submission waiver, so you won't have to pay for any application if you want to submit your film for that festival, you won't have to pay their application fee. And Compass Casting has provided $500 towards a casting session, and the new podcast for filmmakers, The Walkie Check, will also do a promotional interview with the winner, which is very exciting. And that podcast is hosted by the director Lane Marie Wilson, and the script supervisor Kat Garros. So I wanted to give a shout out to all of our prizers. This includes DCASE, the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events from the City of Chicago, the Chicago Film Office, Noise Floor Sound Solutions, Chicago Compliance Specialists, The Walkie Check, The Mill Chicago, Emma Thatcher Photography, Compass Casting, the Midwest Film Festival, and the Independent Film Alliance Chicago. Thank you so much for these sponsors.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's just so cool seeing all of these different organizations that not only give so much to our community, but when we approach them and let them know the mission about this grant and how we envisioned it would not just be, most grants, if you're familiar with grants, are usually just like you get $2,000, you get $10,000, whatever it is, it's cash. But we really wanted to engage the community and make this about not just giving the filmmaker cash, but actually building those bridges between all of these different organizations that we really see as staples. So I just wanted to, as a grant founder, we're going to get into timeline next, but just personally, thank you so much for believing in this grant and believing in our community and giving so much to it. I also wanted to mention, if there is anyone who's watching that is interested in donating additional prizes, we may be cut off for this year. I would have to consult with Dominique. She might totally kill me if I consider adding more. But we want to provide as much value as possible back to the filmmakers. So if you do know someone or you yourself are interested in donating something that you think this winning filmmaker would really value from having that as a prize, please get in touch with us. I'm going to go back to the other slide real quick, so we'll see Dom for a second. But at the bottom you'll see here Community Builders Grant at cameraambassador.com. You can just shoot us an email and let us know what you're interested in donating, and we can coordinate more. So now let's get into the timeline. So this is super important, and this is something that, as I've said, this is a skill that filmmakers need to have. They need to be able to follow schedules and to follow timelines. So at the basis of this grant, it is important for us to be able to ensure that you know what these timelines are. They're listed all over on our website, on the Film Freeway, and they're here. Feel free to screenshot this. I did just see someone ask if this is going to be recorded, and we are going to record this and make this available to watch via our website. So if you know someone that you think would benefit from the grant and would be able to watch this later, you can send them over to our website, cameraambassador.com. So yeah, the application's open today. It's very exciting that we're hosting this today, and they are open now. They are open for 1 full month, so the deadline for the applications is midnight on March 31st. If we receive an application at 12:03, it is not eligible because it did not be received within the deadline. So that's really, really important. We've seen in the past 2 years that we'll get, a trickle through of applications over the first 20, 25 days, and then the last 4 days, there's a little bit more of a rush, and then the last 4 hours, it's really overwhelming because there's so many applications coming in. I remember the first year, I think we had maybe 40 applicants or something. We're like, okay, this is great. This is a good number. We can really give every single application all the attention that it needs and really thoroughly go over one. And then in the last 10 minutes, the grant manager and I were just every 5 seconds, and we got another 50 applicants in the last, no joke, 10 minutes. And it was just so crazy to see filmmakers leaving it down to the last minute. So I would encourage all of you that it's open now. This is the 3rd year. It's open every single March, so maybe you don't have a script that's ready this year. We will have this open again March 2022. Every single March, we're going to keep following the same cycle so people can be prepared. But I would encourage you, if you have an application, Don't wait till the very end to submit it, because if you, your internet goes out, or you fall asleep, or you lose track of time and you submit it late and you put all that work into, it will not qualify. So make sure you plan ahead and get those applications in by March 31st at midnight. And then this is the format of how we select the final round. So there's 10 semifinalists, and then there's 3 finalists, and then there's a finalist pitch event where those 3 finalists pitch to the community, and then the winners are announced. So starting on May 10th, we'll start announcing the 10 semifinalists. We announce it via social media, and we announce 1 finalist per day. And it's always a really exciting time, because usually when you're seeing the finalists get announced, you know people, you see your friends part of this, and it's really like a very celebratory time seeing these 10 projects come down to the semifinalist round. Then, so 1 a day from March 10th through 20th. Then we have a little bit of a break so that we can have our next round of judges review those 10 semifinalists. And then on May 21st, we'll announce our 3 finalists. Those 3 finalists will prepare for the finalist pitch event. We don't know if this pitch event is going to be in person or virtual. We do anticipate, even if it is in person, we'll probably do a live stream, because everybody's comfortability around meeting in person and in groups again will be different, and we want to have as many people be able to have access to this pitch event and to get to know these 3 filmmakers. But that will be on June 3rd, and then depending on how everything's going in June, our birthday is in June. June 1st is Camera Ambassador's 8th birthday. So it's always been a really fun thing for us to announce the winner of this grant right around our birthday. And a lot of times we'll have a birthday party, which is really fun. So we'll see how things go, and we'll either announce it at our birthday, or we'll do some type of online thing. We don't want to announce it and then have to change it, so we're just kind of leaving it open right now that it's mid-June. But the winner of the event will know by mid-June if they are the winner. So that's sort of the overview of the timeline, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of each of those rounds and what each of those rounds mean and who those judges are a little bit later on. I'm going to pass it back to Dom now.
Yeah, so before you even apply, you need to make sure that you're eligible. And this is just a quick little survey that of questions that you should ask yourself prior to applying. So you must be an applicant or you must be a U.S. citizen or a permanent legal resident. Your project must be shot in the Midwest. We don't have a clear-cut definition of which states that applies, because people's definition of what the Midwest is differentiates depending on the person. But if you do live in a state, or if your film is being recorded or shot in a state that has been seen as a part of the Midwest, then yes, it qualifies for this grant. Your final project must be 15 minutes or less. So not 15:01, not 15:02, 15:00 or less. This is a short film fund, and we wanted to make sure that this is something that is accessible to everyone. So you also must be 21 years old by March 31st, 2021. The reason why we have that specific date is because that is the last day to apply. So by the time you apply, you must be 21 years old. You must be a working artist with at least 3 years of professional experience. If you are a student and you have experience, you can still apply. Just please mention that in the application so that we have a little bit more understanding of your experience. And we're not just going to cut your application immediately the moment we figure out that you're still coming into yourself as a filmmaker. That's perfectly fine, as long as you have enough experience under your belt to be able to take these funds and bring a project to fruition.
All right, awesome. So there is a few things that we like to make sure people know about the production. I was going to mention, since this is part of the production rules as well, your final project needs to be 15 minutes or less. So you might be asking, well, aren't I submitting a script? So how do you know if your project's 15 minutes or less? Usually, films you can kind of count on, like one page is 1 minute. There are some films that are much more dialogue heavy or less dialogue heavy. So usually you can gauge based on the style of your film specifically if it's going to be around 15 minutes or less. So just keep that in mind, and it's just taking into consideration as when you're looking at your script. We're not looking for any, TV series, pilot series that are 40 minutes, 45 minutes, things like that. It can be any of those genres, but when you're looking at how do you figure out how long your script is based on how long it will end up being, you can really there's a lot of resources online. You could also even post, send it to some friends and say, do you have experience, gauging how long this is going to be. But sort of rule of thumb is 1 minute is 1 page, and you can use that as a gauge to know if your final project will be eligible. And we're using that same gauge. So if we get a script that's 45 pages, the likelihood of you being able to get that done in 15 minutes and have your final film end up being 15 minutes is pretty low. So if that is your film for some reason, maybe there's pages of gibberish and that's some character, who knows? Like, you guys are the artists, you guys are the creatives, so there may be a project like that. You need to mention it, because what's going to happen is when the judges are reading that and they see that it's long, they're going to immediately dock you points, because it does not seem that it's feasible to be done under 15 minutes. So if it does seem like it's sort of does not fit the traditional timeline and that formula, make sure you mention that in your application project.
And Erica, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Something that I do want to mention, a question that we did get a lot last year, is if my script is over 15 pages, can I still apply? I would say if something is 19 pages or less, more than likely it can be whittled down to a 15-minute film. So it doesn't have to be exactly 15 pages or less, as long as what is on the script can be portrayed within 15 minutes.
That's awesome. Yeah, Dom has a really good gauge on that as someone who is receiving the emails from you guys and from the filmmakers from past years, and that is a question that comes up a lot. So it does not mean 15 pages, it just means that the production you anticipate once you get into that phase, that it will end up being 15 minutes or less. I did want to mention too, we are going to answer questions at the end, so that way, keep them. You can keep putting them in the comments, and we will get to all of them at the end. We do have some time allotted for that. So if we're not answering them as you're commenting them, just know that we will get to them. The production should be in advanced stages of pre-production. So there, as I said, there's lots of different types of grants out there. Some are script writing grants. This is not that grant. This grant is looking for a project that has a completed or near completed script. It also has people already attached to it. So it already has a producer. So it's important to know, like, the eligibility of what this grant is looking for. Does your project fit that? And if it doesn't, that's okay. Maybe there's another grant for it, or maybe even next year, this grant, now you're at that phase with it. So definitely keep this in mind and looking at what your finished project is going to be to make sure that it is falling within the rules of this grant. Again, Dominique mentioned it, it does need to be shot in the Midwest. We are about building the local community here. It's the Community Builders Grant, so ensure that where you're going to be filming it is the Midwest. And then the final thing to note, just as you're planning and you're figuring out your production schedule, we do require the winning project to submit it doesn't have to be completely picture locked or completely, color and completely finished, but we do need at least a cut that is somewhat similar to the grant that you or the pitch that you submitted to us by December 31st, 2021. The reason we do this is that we, again, we want to help filmmakers refine their craft. And it does take a really long time to make a movie, but for a short film of this piece, we feel that from June through December, that is enough time to shoot and at least get a rough draft of that edit put together so that you can send it to us. We also do this every single year, so it's important for us every year that that winning film gets our full attention, and that we are completely committed to getting that project off the ground and that the success of it. So we don't want to have, an overlap from one year bleeding into the next year's grant, and that next project not to receive that same amount of attention. So it is really important when you're reviewing your timeline that you keep all of these things in mind.
Yeah, so this year, which is a new development, we are accepting all of our applications via our Film Freeway, and you can find that at filmfreeway.com/camera ambassador. And all of our rules, everything that we're going over is directly on that Film Freeway page. So if you have any questions after this event, be sure to check that page first, then send us an email if you have any further questions. Again, the application deadline is 11:59 on March 3rd, March 31st, 2021. And this year we are charging application fees. The grant application fee is $10. For students, it's $5. And all funds will go directly to the cost of organizing the grant. However, if you cannot pay the grant application, if that is keeping you from applying to the application, then please send us an email at communitybuildersgrant@cameraambassador.com, and we'll make sure to work with you on making that application more accessible for you. What we don't want to happen is that the application keeps anyone from applying or feeling like the application is not accessible to them. So please, if your money is tight and you have issue with that application fee, feel free to reach out to us and we'll try to accommodate you in the best way that we can. Yes, so a little bit more about our free film freeway application. So there's a few things that you need to know, and if you don't remember all this, that's perfectly fine. This is all on the film freeway page with these specific directions. So you will need to create a new project under your film freeway account. And when you do that, you select script under project type. You also mark your project as being from the United States. That's important because if you don't mark your project as being from the United States, it won't be eligible for this grant. So after you save your project, a pop-up window will appear. Select Add Project File to upload your project PDF. And you will be required to condense multiple documents into a single PDF, which will go under Project File. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so this is what you need to include in your PDF. A current script or a treatment. It's okay if it's the first draft. Also your budget, your tentative production timeline, your current key partner bio. So this includes producers, directors, DP, your talent who's serving as your main characters, any creators involved, any key partner bios where it's like, this project would not exist without this particular partner. And it's okay if you don't have all of your crew. We just want to make sure that you are in the process of compiling a team for this film. We also will need your social media handles and links to high-res photographs of all key members. This is important because if we don't have your social media handles, we can't tag you in our posts. And when we announce that people are semifinalists, the only way that we notify them as semifinalists is by notifying them via social media and tagging them via social media. So it's very important that you include your social media handles. Of course, when we get to the finalist stage, we'll tag you in the post and email you beforehand. But in order to know that you're a semifinalist, you will need to provide your social media handles, specifically either your Facebook or your Instagram handle, preferably your Instagram handle. And again, I see that there's another question popping up. We'll answer all of our questions at the Q&A at the very end. So this is what you need in order to create a strong application. You need an original story, right? That's true to what you're trying to tell as a filmmaker. I just wanted to include a couple of quotes from judges about applications from last year. A feel-good story, using a unique vehicle to tell the story, simple, impactful, honest, relevant, strong visual aesthetic, tight concept, actionable. So like these are quotes that describe a project that has been very well thought through, right? The director or the applicant knows exactly what they want their project to look like, right? Or at least have a concrete idea of what they want their project to look like. And that really comes through when you put effort into not just the script, but also the storyboard of your application. You also need a strong budget. I think what I've seen as a person who reads all of the applications, that come through for this grant, something that I consistently see is people put a lot of time into the story, which is important, but they kind of neglect the other parts of their application, right? So those other aspects of your applications are just as important. And the rest of the quotes that I have here are from judges who love the story in the application, but see weaknesses in other parts of the application. So make sure that you have a strong budget, such as making sure that you cover both expected and unexpected expenses, that you pay your cast and crew, and that what the numbers that are in your budget are clearly based on research. So, like, for example, I saw maybe like 10 judge comments in which someone was like, this story is great, but like this budget doesn't meet state minimum wage requirements, or this script requires police uniforms that are very expensive to rent on a daily basis, and that's not factored into the budget, or these particular roles are not being paid for in an ethical manner. So if someone is donating their services to you for your film, make sure that that's clear, right? Make sure that we know, that the judges who are scoring your applications know this is a person who has agreed to donate their services to this project. Because it is important that you make sure that you pay your cast and crew wages that they can live off of. And it is important that you also have wiggle room in your budget. Say something unexpected comes up during your production. We want to be confident. We want to confidently know that you are able to, that you have room in your budget to cover these unexpected expenses, right? So make sure that there's a little wiggle room in your budget as well. Also make sure that there's consistent language throughout your application. So one quote that I pulled is, it seems to be a bit of confusion on how long the episodes will be. Some places it says 22, another says 15, and then another says 12. So make sure that if you make a statement in one part of your application, that statement reigns true throughout your application, right? This specific example is pertaining to the length of the episodes. So make sure that, of course, like as you go through production and as you pre-production and you solidify details about your film, make sure that you're updating your application, and make sure that every single piece of your application is consistent with the story that you're trying to tell and the other documents in your application. Also, make sure that you have a realistic timeline. This is another common complaint that I saw in judge reviews, is that they love the story, the filmmakers are experienced and passionate, but it seems like their timeline does not give them enough time to create this film, right? In the way that they're envisioning it. So really think about the timeline that you're creating for this project, and make sure, like, just like you need in your budget, give yourself some wiggle room when it comes to time, right? Can I shoot more than 10 pages in a day? Probably not, right? So make sure that you really think thoroughly about what your time is. We're not asking for a concrete shooting schedule. We're just asking that the timeline that you give us can accurately portrays how much time you need in the story that exists in your script. And I'm sure that there's other aspects that can make a strong application. And if you're worried about a particular part of your application, feel free to email us at communitybuildersgrant@cameraambassador.com, and we'll be sure to answer those questions. So if you feel like a particular part of your application is weak or maybe needs improvement, and you're not sure if the language is strong enough or if the budget is strong enough, send us your questions, okay?
Lots of information. Yeah, so we are going to make this available so you can view this later and take notes. So let's talk about the judging a little bit. So one of the core parts of the mission of this grant was, this grant is for the community and by the community. So what this means is, this is not a white sheet of you guys and then the people that decide. This is a grant that we want the community to be active in and to partake in deciding who receives these funds. So we talked a little bit about this in the beginning, but there are 3 different rounds. There's the semifinalist, the finalist, and then the winner. The semifinalist, to remind you, has 10 semifinalists total. We have enrolled a panel of 25 local film professionals. This ranges from directors to casting agents to DPs to accountants to executive producers, all the different types of roles. So it's not just, you're not creating this application thinking that maybe another producer is going to read it. There is going to be all types of different filmmakers so that we're getting a wide array of feedback going back into every single project. The next round is the finalist round. This is 3 people, 3 films, and this is judged by a celebrity judge and the camera ambassador team. This is a new element that we've added to the grant, and we aren't announcing yet who the celebrity judge is, but I can promise you that you are going to be excited. It's someone that you have heard about, is very important to our local Chicago scene here. And we added this because we really wanted those 10 finalists 10 semifinalists who that celebrity judge will review all 10 of those projects, to be someone that as a filmmaker you were really excited and really proud that your script and your project was going to get in front of those eyes. So we're really excited to incorporate that part. And then the camera ambassador team will also review those same 10 semifinalists to narrow it down to 3 finalists. All of the judging is done based upon a survey where there are 10 questions. Each question can receive a score from 1 to 10. So that would mean that the perfect score a film could get would be 100. And it's every single round of this is done exactly the same so that the grading is all done from the same viewpoint or from the same sort of structure. The final round of this is the community pitch event. So those 3 finalists, if you make it to that round, you do need to be prepared that either through a virtual platform or an in-person platform, you are going to pitch your project to everybody that's watching it. The first year, it was amazing. It was, the first year, so there's a lot of excitement around it. The 3 finalists all enrolled there in community. That is part of being a successful filmmaker, is getting the people around you to believe in your project. And actually the winning project, Patois, by Zachary Moore and Andre Moore and Zachary Moore, they had their parents, their siblings, every friend, everyone who was going to work on the movie, they packed that room. And it was so excited to see them activate the community to come out and see them in this pitch event. And then everybody who participates in this, so the next year, because we were in the middle of the pandemic, we weren't able to meet in person, we did it virtually, and what we found is the limitations that we had of the first year where we could only physically fit like 80 people in our space, that ceiling was lifted. And we ended up having over, I think it was 400 people who ended up watching it because we had it available live, and then we had it available for 2 days after the live. And then everyone was able to watch those 3 pitches, visit our website, and then vote on the project with those same 10 questions that the other 2 rounds answered. And then those were tallied up, and that number became the winner. So you can really see here how we've set up different structures so that it's activating all sorts of different parts of our community, and that part of the grant is extremely important to us. So I just wanted to mention bringing Dom back in here, just because Dom is the person this year who has really been the front line of communicating with all of these judges. Every single person on this list I know personally, and it means so much to me that these judges are putting the time and energy into this grant. It's a lot of work reviewing scripts, and it's a lot of responsibility too. And a lot of these people have done it for the past 2 years. Some people are new this year. It's a mix. But I'm just so grateful, because we would never be able to do this without these people here. So up on the screen is everybody who is confirmed and committed to judge this year. So filmmakers, as you're watching this, take a look at this list. Maybe there's someone on this list that you've been hoping you could pitch a script to. This is your opportunity, because that person might very well be the one reviewing your script. Did you want to add anything, Dom?
Yeah, the thing I want to add is what I love about our panel of judges is that their skill set and what they do in the film industry highly varies, right? We have a casting director, we have directors, we have screenwriters, we have producers.
There's actors on this list. Yeah, it's like
and actors as well, right? Yeah, so what I really love is that it's not just one act, like just one cross section of the film industry. It really is a mixed bag, and I can personally attest that some of these judges that they are great filmmakers to work with. So if you're like not don't just investigate them as an applicant, right? Investigate them as someone who might want to work with them, right? These are all really great filmmakers.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking, like, if I was going to put together like a film softball team, this would be my roster. This would be all the people that not only do I have so much respect for their work, but they're just incredible human beings and the people that I would want to spend my time with. So I hope all of you, screenshot this list too and check out all of these people. They all deserve just so much recognition. So we are now going to get to the questions. We've seen a number of different questions come through the chat, so I'm kind of just going to go work through this from the start. Okay, so first one here, let's see if I can make this a little bit smaller. Over here, let's see. Okay, so Michael David Thomas asked, would a film be eligible if the majority of the film is filmed in the Midwest, but B-roll, etc., is filmed outside of the Midwest? I would say the general answer to this question is it is still eligible. Going back to like the purpose of this grant. So this is about building community and celebrating the Midwestern community. So if maybe you've already shot B-roll, or maybe there's one scene where the actor takes a trip to Colorado and you need those mountains. We don't have those mountains here. We understand. You can't move the mountain to the Midwest. So as long as your project is still accomplishing what we're looking for in this grant, which is to build the community here in the Midwest, then it would still be eligible. And as we answer these questions, if we don't answer it in the way that you're looking, or maybe there's a follow-up question, put it in the chat and we'll definitely come back to that as well. Would you have anything to add to that, Dom?
No, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I have anything that I would add to that. Sorry, I should have just said no.
Okay, next one we've got. All right. Are you accepting short documentaries? So I was actually thinking about answering this question before someone even asked it, because this is a short film fund grant where we are only accepting scripts that the final film will come down to 15 minutes, but that is extremely broad. So this could be a 15-minute promotional video if you want it to be. Maybe there's some organization or some charity or some cause that this is a promotion for that. Maybe it's a very straightforward short narrative documentary, or a short narrative film. Maybe it's a documentary. Maybe it's a music video. Maybe it is a pilot to something else. Maybe it is a teaser for a feature you want to make. There is no requirement on what your project, the genre has to be, or the intention of what this is going to be. It could be within any of those things. The only requirement is that whatever the final video that you would make with this grant, it can be no longer than 15 minutes. All right, let's see. Okay, next question. Do you accept projects where the director and the DP are one person? Yes. We are not trying to dictate or tell you how you should make your film, and if that should be two people or one person, it can absolutely be one person. We've had projects that have made it to the finalist rounds that are a very large crew, and it's a very large budget, and we've had other projects where it's like a very run and gun 4-person crew, and both of those made it to the finalists. So we aren't looking for one specific type of project that falls within, we're not saying it's everything, but then all the projects that make it are within this one thing. It really is very broad, and it's how you're pitching your project through that application that speaks to us, and how it's within those grading questions, making it to the next rounds. I was going to mention too another question that I thought of while we were talking about this that relates to this question a little bit too, and who should apply? So should it be the writer? Should it be the producer? Should it be the director? And that's completely up to your team. Every single, as you guys know, in indie filmmaking, every single team operates a little bit differently. Maybe your the director, for whatever reason, is just extremely passionate about putting together pitch projects, and they are the ones that are actually putting together the application and sending it from their inbox. I think a lot of times it is more traditional that it is the producer that's doing that, but it doesn't have to be, one person specifically in that role. It can be anyone on your team. Maybe you want to delegate someone on your team that they are the community builders grant applicant, and they're maybe a PA. It can be totally up to you. It does not matter, as long as whoever is submitting and actually putting the application together, they are pulling together all of those requirements and everything that we require for that pitch and that PDF, that all those things are put in there. So that would be really important, on the key roles, who's involved with the project. Maybe in this situation, maybe it is a PA and they're just an integral part of this and they're the ones that are pulling this together. Put that in the pitch deck. So have, if there's, I would think that there's the writer and the director and probably a producer, because we're looking for a project that's a little bit further along in development, but then also include yourself as the PA, and that's part of your responsibilities, and maybe even mention like why you're the person submitting in that role if it is a non-traditional role. And every project in the past, it has seemed like, at least from my perspective, especially the ones that have made it down to the final semifinalists, finalists, when it comes to the pitch event, usually it's a little bit of a team effort. So like that first year when Andre and Zach, they pitched in person, Andre definitely got up there and like you felt the heart of it. Like there was so much passion, and it was all just flowing out of him. It was so cool to see that vision of the story be presented, and then he passed it over to Zach, who was the producer on it, and then we got to hear all about the budget and all about how they were making it happen and who was donating what and how they were spending their money. So a lot of times it is multiple people on the team that are helping put that together and working on that application.
Yeah, I will say that whoever is completing that application for your production, make sure that they're passionate about the project and make sure that they're familiar with the project as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next question is from Andrew McCarthy. He's asking, do you accept projects where parts of the short film have already been filmed, or can we reshoot it? Yes, I think blanket statement, that's fine. It's just presenting that in the pitch. So if you do have something where you're reshooting it, it would be very helpful for us to know why. If you just say this is a reshoot, we might be like, well, why? Did you not allocate funds well? Did an actor drop out? There's so much left, the imagination. So if there is something where maybe your film, in our rules, it's not mentioning something about that specifically, just mention that. And that's why we have the format like this, is because every single project is different. Every single team is different. There's different challenges. We completely understand that. So, just let us know that. And, you could even, if you do have certain things that you have filmed that you are going to be using if you won the grant in conjunction with what you were shooting with new content, include links to that. Like, it'd be great for us to see what your vision and what you've already made. And that's totally fine to include that. All right, let's see. We kind of covered this one a little bit already. Or no, we didn't. Sorry, Gustavo. So Gustavo is asking, are you more likely to fund a short film where the grant covers most/all of the budget? What would my chances of receiving the grant decrease if the grant only covers a part of the budget? It will not decrease. I think both years, the filmmakers who won in the past 2 years, both of them had additional funds, whether that was from other grants, from personal fundraising, like through an Indiegogo or something like that. Filmmakers watching, you probably know that $3,000 on a short film is gone in just in seconds of talking about it. When you start talking about paying crew and locations and all the things that goes into it, $3,000 is it goes quick. So we completely understand if there is other things that you're using or other funds that are coming in from this. It's also okay if you are trying to produce this only on $3,000, because there's a lot of projects, especially with shorts, where a lot of people are passionate about that and they're willing to donate their time and they're willing to put their own resources into the project instead of that project spending actual hard cash on that. It's just really important that you mention that in the pitch, because if we got one of those, the feedback from the judges is they were mentioning about police uniforms and that those were really expensive. We know that, our judges know that, that's part of hard production costs, but maybe your production Maybe someone's dad is a police officer, and that's part of the donation, that the passion of the people that are behind this project are making it happen. So maybe it is only going to cost you $3,000, but if you had to pay for everything that was getting donated, it was going to cost $20,000. So mention all those things. If we don't know that, we can't take that into consideration, and the judges can't take that into consideration when judging it. So it's no problem if it is fully funded by the $3,000 and the other prizes that basically reduce the costs of what would go into what you'd have to spend hard costs. It's totally fine if it's completely funded by that, but we are probably going to want to know if it is completely funded by that $3,000. Why do you not need more money? There's probably a reason, because a $3,000 production, if you are paying people minimum wage, if you are paying, maybe they're donating their time, that's okay too, that's totally up to you. But we need to know what's going into that, and then if you are getting other funds, we've had projects that have applied that they already had $15,000 from another grant. That's totally fine. We're so excited for you when we see that. That's not decreasing your chances. It's not increasing your chances. That's just information that's going in when we're looking at a holistic view of your entire project and whether we think it's a good fit for this grant. And if it's scoring high in those categories that we're grading, we're taking that all into consideration.
Yeah, and I will say something that's more important is making sure that you have a budget that conveys that and take financially to complete your project, right? So make sure that you do that research, right? Going back to like getting uniforms for your budget, like getting uniforms for into your budget. Like, don't be afraid to like call the costume shop to get a quote. Don't be afraid to call, I don't know, maybe you need more than $5,000 in gear credit from us. Don't be afraid to call us and ask us, hey, how much would it cost to run our grip truck? Just don't be afraid to just gather as much information as you can to make sure that your budget is portraying what you need accurately. Because if it doesn't, that does significantly hinder your application.
Yeah, the other thing I was just thinking about too is if you will need more than what is received in the prizes to get your project done, we're going to want to know your plan of how to get that done. Because the last thing that we want is to select this winner, and because of other factors that were outside of our control, you weren't able to finish your production and get us that rough draft of an edit by the end of the year. So if you need another 100,000 and you don't mention that, or maybe you mention you need the 100,000 but you don't mention how the heck you're getting that, you're probably not going to receive a good score in the budget, just because if we don't know, we can't take that in consideration. And I think most filmmakers watching, if they were judging a script that was getting 3,000 from us and they needed another 100,000 and they didn't have any plan of where they were going to get that, probably not going to get it. It's a lot harder than it sounds. Or maybe it does sound hard. It sounds hard to me. So definitely take those things into consideration, because those are going to be things that when they're grading it, the judges are looking at. All right, next question. This is from Olivia Grace. They're asking, if I'm a producer attached to the project and my partner and I are selected for the grant, am I eligible to apply for my own project the next year? Yes, absolutely. We have had people who have applied every single year. It's super exciting to see, especially when it's some of the projects that have made it to the finalists in the past years, seeing that they've got another project. A lot of those projects still got made, and they mentioned that, and now they're on to their next script. So it's no problem at all. We've also had projects where there was someone who was representing another project, and in the next year it was something that was their own script and it was their own project. So that's okay too. So don't be nervous about being attached to other projects and somehow that disqualifying you. And honestly, because this grant is run by the community and there is literally like 33 people on like the finalists and semifinalists plus the community, which last year was 400, there is 450 people who are contributing to who is the winner. That's a lot of people putting their input into who's going to win. So in theory, in fairness of the rules, the same person could win 2 years in a row. The chance of that happening is probably low, but there are projects that just stick out. So definitely do not disqualify yourself if you've applied in the past, if you've won in the past. Please apply. We want to see your names in that pool again. And this is the way that we designed it, because we want it to be fair and we want it to be something where you can feel confident that your time and energy that's going into applying this grant are being respected and that it's being fairly processed. So yeah, that's why we have so many people contributing to it. And again, back to that same cause of this is building community. all of those people that are reading, you count all the films that are submitting and the filmmakers and all the people attached to them, plus all those people that are judging. That's a lot of people coming together and putting energy and an energy exchange through this thing. So yeah, definitely do not worry about that. It would have in no way, shape, or form disqualify you or reduce your chances of winning again or becoming a finalist again. All right, I think we have just a few more. We've got about 5 more minutes, so this is, perfect. You guys asked the perfect amount of questions. Okay, so Stephen Garcia asks, can I submit multiple scripts if the key crew members will be the same? Yes. Simple answer, yes. Do you have anything to add on that, Dom?
No, I don't. I have seen, as someone who has seen all of the applications, I have seen multiple projects in the same pool of applications where a producer or an assistant director or a cast member is a part of multiple projects. That's perfectly fine. We have no issue with that, and that's already been the norm.
Awesome. Okay, I think that is the last question. I'm just going to scroll through real quick, make sure I didn't miss anyone. We do have 5 more minutes, so if there's any last minute questions, I know it's cliche to say, but no questions are dumb questions. If you're thinking of it, probably someone else is too, and we'd rather you just ask it here. But yeah, we're really excited about this grant this year. In its 3rd year, it's something that's very, very near and dear to my heart. I hope it lives on. I hope in 200 years this grant still is happening and it lives beyond me. That would be my greatest joy if this was successful. I've also imagined, these are the things that I think about when I lay awake at night. I imagine doing a 10-year anniversary thing where the last 10 years of winners all get together and we do a showcase and we celebrate all of those people. So this is around for the long haul, even when times get hard during this past year. It's a staple of our business, our ethos, our mission here at Camera Ambassador, and we sincerely hope you'll apply. We will leave the next slide up for a little bit, which has the email address, the website, as well as our film freeway. Everything that we mentioned tonight is listed on there as well, and we will also make this recording available via our grant page on our website, cameraambassador.com. So if you know a filmmaker that you think would be interested in applying, please shoot them an email, shoot them a call, let them know about this. We wanted to have this session just so you guys got a little bit more hands-on time. We want to set you up for as much success as possible. And we can't wait to start getting, today was day 1. Actually, it was really funny when we were doing, this is our first year with Film Freeway, so we were trying to make sure it was completely running seamlessly and it was set up to the best of our ability. And we opened it for 3 hours one day just to test it. And when we opened it, we got applications in that test period, and we were like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting that this is on people's radar and they're so excited about it that they were applying even before it was technically open. So we emailed them. They're going to apply when it's reopened again now. But we do anticipate we'll have a large application pool again this year, and we're just really excited to be part of this community and to serve this community.
Thanks so much for joining us, guys.
Yeah, it was great to see all of you. It was great to see some of the comments here, a lot of familiar names. In times like this when we're not seeing each other as often, it's little things like this, seeing a thumbs up or seeing a heart, that just makes me just reminded and just feel so connected to all of you out there. So thank you for being a part of this, for being a filmmaker, for being an artist in these trying times, and continuing to practice your craft. All right, all have a wonderful night. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Take care.